All right, the second round of the ABSA Premiership got underway on Friday, and with all the on-field action, some teams have made their intentions clear in the second half of the league campaign, with some interesting January signings. And here to talk to us about this and all things PSL is SABC Digital Sports producer Sipho Kekana. Bye-bye. Very good afternoon to you and welcome.
Afternoon to you too, Spiro.
Let's first of all take a look at the first game of the year. That's Maritzburg United and Ajax Cape Town. Now, Calvin Marlin on the bench as the coach. What did you make of both teams' performances?
Well, I think you could tell that obviously the teams had been on break before that match. And for Calvin Marlin, it wasn't a very good day in office, obviously losing 2-1 to Maritzburg United. He would have loved to actually do better there. But then, I mean, going into this, the second half of the season, it's going to be interesting to see how Ajax perform to try and avoid the relegation that they find themselves in at the moment. They are in a very precarious position, I think on position 15th. So they would obviously need to do better with Mushine Tugral, and that's one of the reasons why they've brought Mushine Tugral to Cape Town to try and avoid that relegation.
And Sienda Xulu also scored the winning goal in that game, and coming out of the game saying that he's in his best form. You know, did his performance on Friday vindicate that statement?
Well, I think so. Look, it has been very, very disappointing to see Sienda Xulu over the years struggling to be the best that we know him to be. When he was first promoted from Alspak Tawana to Mamelodi Sundowns, and then he left to overseas and came back to Kaizer Chiefs and always struggled to hit form. I've always believed that he was one of the best defenders this country has ever produced. I had high hopes in him. So I'm hoping he seems to be in a very good state of mind right now at Maritzburg, and I'm hoping that he's going to regain that form, which is also going to benefit Bafana in the future. I think there's still a lot that we can expect from him.
Let's look at yesterday's game. Mamelodi Sundowns suffered their second consecutive loss in the league. The game against Polokwane City didn't go according to plan.
Not at all, not at all. And I think well, some people are saying that it was a game of two halves, but I tend to disagree with that, because Mamelodi Sundowns, of course, did dominate. It was one-sided in the first half, and in the second half, I think they didn't drop that much, but they left so much to be desired in the first half. They had plenty of chances that they didn't take, which was the difference with Polokwane City in the second half. They were more clinical. The chances that they got in the second half, they made sure that they take good use of them. So that's what made the difference. But I still think Sundowns were very, very unlucky not to have scored those matches. And well, it's going to be also very interesting to see how they bounce back from that loss, seeing that they're going into a very important match against Orlando Pirates next week. Pirates, we know that they managed to get a 3-1 victory yesterday, which will actually boost their confidence going into that crucial match against Mamelodi Sundowns. Sundowns will have already dropped 6 points out of 2 matches to try and widen that gap at the top of the log there. And Pirates will obviously be going into the next match trying to narrow that gap. They're sitting on 23 points, whereas Mamelodi Sundowns are sitting on 28 points. So a win would narrow that gap to about 3 points.
Yeah, and I want us to talk about the Orlando Pirates game in just a moment. But SuperSport United and Kaizer Chiefs played arguably the best game of the day. But why did it end goalless?
Well, I'm not so sure why, but there was a very good match. It was a very good match. A lot was expected, especially from Kaizer Chiefs. But we've always had that problem when it comes to finishing, and perhaps that's why it ended goalless. There were chances created, but chances were never converted into goals, and that has always been the problem with clubs in South Africa. We were just talking about Mamelodi Sundowns now. If you look at the number of chances that they had, it's shocking that they got out of that match with only 2 goals.
And Orlando Pirates started the year on a high against Baroka FC. Should we be expecting more of these going forward?
Well, they started very well, which I think was very good for their coach, because he's gonna he was going to be under a lot of pressure had he failed to win that match. Whether it's something that we should expect going forward, that remains to be seen. And like I say, that match, the match that they're going to play against Orlando Pirates, against Mamelodi Sundowns next week, will go a long way in telling which direction Pirates will go after that. Should they win against Mamelodi Sundowns, you can expect that their confidence is obviously going to shoot up, which can get them into a title contending position going forward. But so far, I wouldn't say so much looking at their coach, especially with the release of, I was a little bit concerned with the release of Rachale. I mean, I understand the point that they're making, the fact that perhaps he seems to be holding on to the ball and all that. But to release a player because of that, it's a bit worrying because those are just some of the things that are coachable. And if any coach believes a player of Rachale's quality deserves to leave the team to another, I mean, because of that, it should cause some concern.
All right. Now, it looks like it's transfers galore this season. What do you make of all the transfer business in the Premier League? Yeah,
look, we were just talking about Rachale now. That the story of Rachale leaving Orlando Pirates, there's a very sad story behind that, because what it eventually does is that it's turning us to hate ourselves. This is the best of, I mean, the quality of the player that he is, with a lot of skill and all of that. That's what South African players are, and you should, as a coach, be appreciating that and being able to push the best out of any player like that. So I was disappointed with that. Looking at Kaizer Chiefs, obviously they've managed to bring Spelele Njangasi right now to Kaizer Chiefs. A lot is expected there. I'm not too sure whether Spelele Njangasi is going to automatically change Chiefs' fortunes, but what I do expect that what I kind of expect is that it could expose the real problems at Kaizer Chiefs, because Kaizer Chiefs, even before the signings that they have made right now, they have not been short of the quality to be doing better than they have been doing recently. And so now, with the likes of Spelele Njangasi going to Kaizer Chiefs, obviously everyone is saying that Steve now has the quality to turn Chiefs around to actually contend for the league, which I don't think is the case. I think the Kaizer Chiefs' problems have always been on the bench, and I still do expect that Kaizer Chiefs' problems are still going to continue, even with the recent signings that they've made.
And another interesting transfer development is that of Coutinho and the Liverpool debacle. Finally, it does appear that Liverpool buckled to the Barcelona pressure.
Well, they have. That's a very interesting one, but also a tough one at the same time. Tough because I think one, looking at, by the way, I'm a Barca fan, and I'm happy that they managed to get.
You had to name the colours the must.
I had to. So, but tough in a sense that Brazil have a World Cup coming up at the end of the season in June. In June, there's a World Cup. So Brazil would obviously want Coutinho, and he himself, wanting to play in the World Cup, would want to get game time. So now the question is, going to Barcelona, is he going to immediately walk into that team? He needs game time, sure. And obviously it will come with a lot of frustration if he is to arrive there and sit on the bench. Tough also again because he's cup tied. He cannot play in the Champions League at the moment. So the question is, what if he walks into that team and makes a huge difference and immediately has a lot of impact? That is obviously going to affect Barcelona going into the Champions League, because one of their key players would then not be allowed to take part in those matches. So, but it is a very good move, looking at the fact that some of the Barcelona stars, talking about Suarez, Iniesta, Lionel Messi, are already in their 30s. So they need Coutinho, and I think looking ahead into the future, he was a very good signing, and is it's a signing that I think is going to pay off.
All right, Kekana, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your update.
Yep.
All right, so that is a sports producer, SABC sports producer, helping us to get to the bolts and the nuts of all the PSL action right here on SABC News Studios.